If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.
Hello Internet, we are back. We have a 3-2 battalion soldier with us again. The Buffalo Battalion, as some people call them. This guy is special because he contacted me himself and I'm really glad. And I've actually seen him. Once he explained who he was, I actually saw him. When I was at the Sabatino Day, he was reading the names of the people who got killed in action. And I was standing there with my camera and I was actually crying inside because I felt to myself, such a price was being paid. And in any other normal society except South Africa, these people would probably be known by name by many. And now they're not. And we at Legacy, we would like to, to give honor to these men as well, who paid for their lives during the war. There is no higher accolade, I suppose, you can get as a soldier. And I was wondering how they did it. I was wondering how he and these two mates were doing it, because they didn't blink a tear, they didn't say anything, they just read those names out, and that is a mark of professionalism. And I really admire you for that. So let me introduce him, Oliver Sabatini. I hope I say the word correctly, your surname. I'm sure there were many jokes about it in your life, but it cannot be as bad as Kotze. Surely not. So welcome, yes, sir. Thank you for coming to us. How did you end up in the army? What happened?
So Chris, thanks for that introduction. Thanks very much for that introduction. Going into the army or getting into the army is sort of a little bit of a long process. Let me just do that. A bit of a long process. And it started more like when I was a youngster. I was at Witbank High School, and in 1982, I was the only youngster that took part in the Witbank Commandos Freedom of the City Parade. And since then, even before that, I was always interested in the army. My family spoke about World War II. My mother had a famous cousin that was decorated quite a few times in the Second World War, a guy by the name of Lewis Allen Lynn. He's dead now, but he was decorated a lot, and we heard a lot of him. Another cousin that was blown up and buried in Alexandria in North Africa. And then a man that I was named after, Oliver, he was a captain in North Africa as a signaler in that campaign. So, military's always been in the family, and always spoke of it. And I always knew that I was going to go to the army. I didn't know what I was going to do or how I'd end up, but always knew I was going to go to the army. And in South Africa, as a 16-year-old, you get those call-up papers, and the school has to say you're at school. But after matric, I was off onto the way to the army, and it was interesting in my time. I had two call-up papers, one for Walvis Bay, which was Tusai, and one for Potch, was the Canon donkeys. And so I said, well, I always wanted to go to infantry. I want to be a foot soldier in inverted commas. So I phoned them, and they said that's where I went. I went to Walvis Bay. So I got on the train, got sent off by my mother, got shown off by my mother, and off on the train to Pretoria. And I landed up in Pretoria. I saw a mate of mine by the name of Sean Pike, who's actually dead now. We were going to the army. We ended up in Walvis Bay together. And Walvis Bay is an interesting place, just sand, and a bit of sea. So there was two bases. There was the main base and the Rooikop bases. And my luck, I ended up at the Rooikop bases. So that was, major was a high rank, but a corporal in that Walvis Bay Rooikop base was higher than a major. And it was good fun, not all the time. There was a little hill outside Walvis Bay that was called Kochkoppie, and we ran up and ran down, and sometimes hurled on the way down. But that was Walvis Bay. And then I think 3 or 4 weeks into basics, once you've got your G1, K1, that's an interesting story. You go to the main bases, and you get in your medical fitness, or your G1, K1, and you see all these people, lots of oaks, young oaks, on drips, recovering from drugs or whatever the case is. But anyway, I get my test. I'm G1, K1, and as soon as I walk out the medical tent, this one corporal says, "What's your classification?" So I said, "Hey, G1, K1." He said, "Ooh, you're mine." And yeah, for the next couple of weeks at Walvis Bay, we learned what does you mind mean. But anyway, got back to the base, carried on with our PT, and the basics. And what was interesting about that first 3 or 4 weeks of Walvis Bay is that no matter what background you came from, educational, English, Afrikaans, hey man, you were treated the same. So it was like that breakdown story where you learn how to strip a R4 or you learn how to march. No one's clever or stupider. And that famous saying in Afrikaans, your Mikey's werk nie saam, we learned the hard way. And you got to adapt and doing all the PT and etc. And then at a time, all the different units come to the SI bases. Do you want to be a paravet? Do you want to be a recce? And I wanted to go to infantry school. I wanted to go have rank. So, you go for the selection, you go march in front of the colonels or whoever was there. Can't remember exactly, but you go, you give your best halt and salute. And they ask you a few questions and they say, why do you want to go to infantry school? So for me, it was weird. I always knew I wanted to be a corporal. I wanted to march. I wanted to train because that in school, I was in the cadets. You're in the what we call the efficiency squad where you did marching and you partake in competition. So I always wanted to be a corporal. And I learned from my time in Witbank that the NCO was the backbone of the army. That's where the things happened. So I always wanted to be a corporal. And so I went and did the interview. And I'd say lucky to get nominated to go. But in Walvis Bay, I learned quickly that in Walvis Bay, I was a big fish in a small pond. I was on the what they call the student committee and all this type of stuff. And then you get to infantry school where you got all these fishes. So now you're a big fish in a big pond. So you're now a small fish again. So we got to infantry school. We flew from Walvis Bay, I think it was to George, and then on a truck to Oudtshoorn and Pfaff school. And you get there and you immediately see the pace is different. The pace is, hey, from Walvis Bay, maybe 120 steps a minute. Yeah, at Pfaff school is 180 pace and something similar like that. So you get there, you go get all your kit again, and then you run everywhere. It's and these corporals are shouting at you, swearing at you, and the names you get called. I mean, I never heard of them before. But anyway, we get our kit and we go to the. I was in golf company, so you go to golf company. And I get selected into platoon 4. Now, that to me was a bit of a painful experience, the platoon 4, because we had a corporal and a lieutenant there that was nightmarish, if I could say the least. And anyway, another guy that came with me was a guy by the name of Roth, and he ended up in that year, 1987, getting the baton for the best NCO. And he was good. But anyway, I was in golf company and I was struggling. To be honest, I was struggling. But anyway, making it through, went through fast bait, did platoon weapons, did everything correctly. But I was having my ass kicked by this corporal and lieutenant. And in the end, I landed up in front of the company, the base commander of Pfaff school. Because they wanted me out. And I said, I don't want to go anywhere. So I had to go have an interview with this base commander. So saluted in front of this base commander. And I said, listen, I just feel I'm getting picked on like a little boy, a little schoolboy. I'm getting picked on. And no matter what I do, this lieutenant and corporal is gonna hate me for the rest of my year at infantry school. So he asked me, did I do platoon weapons? Did I do fast bait? I said, yes. So he said, right, you move into platoon 3. And I tell you, what a difference. What a difference in platoon 3. And I'm not saying that corporal and lieutenant were easy, but they were fair. It was that Mikey's werk nie saam nie. So if you all, are you allowed to swear here? If you all mess up, you all get a hiding. But it's not individual. And I know in the army there's a lot of individualistic things because they try to build you, etc. But I just felt in platoon 4, it was Sabatino getting a hiding. And I'll never forget the one PT opfok session that I had with this corporal. We were in the showers, and you got those ironing planks, and we had our feet up on the ironing planks in the push-up position, but we had our arpjasses on. Now, arpjasses are for winter, as you know. And we were doing these push-ups, me and this other guy, in the hot water. This corporal put all the hot water showers on, and it was steaming in there, and we were doing these push-ups. Anyway, after a long while, you learn to say, "Corporal, ek kan nie meer nie." And yeah, so it carried on like that. But anyway, I got to platoon 3, and what a difference. In life, you learn about leaders, and you learn to take the good from leaders and the bad, and you learn to ignore the bad from leaders. And these 2 leaders in platoon 3 were excellent people. I actually have contact with them. 2 great guys. They were not soft, but they were fair. And their platoon did very well. I mean, we went through the whole thing, go through border phase, through Tainstedelijk, through Methodic, which is instruction. And their platoon was doing well. It wasn't a softy platoon. So anyway, so I loved platoon 3 and got on well and carried on and came to the end of the phase at infantry school, and now it's time to decide where you want to go or what you want to do with your second year. And for me, I knew I was never going to be an instructor at a SAI infantry battalion, or instructing troops, giving them boss op fox or all that. That wasn't me. I wanted to go to the border. I wanted an adventure, and so we were all on the parade ground, and I first wanted to go to 101 Battalion. I was actually in the group for 101 Battalion, and then I saw this other guy, a corporal I knew by the name of Mark Newson, and I said, "Where are you going?" And he said, "No, I'm going to 32 Battalion." So I said, "Now, who's that?" And he said, well, that's this person with a camouflage beret on the podium. Now, as a youngster, you see anything camouflage, I mean, that just stands out. You say, yo, those are heroes, or, they must be in good stuff. So anyway, off I go to this brigadier, and I give my best salute in front of him. I say, "Brigadier, I want to go to 32 Battalion. And he says to me, "Can you speak Portuguese?" I say, "Not a word, but I'm Italian. I can learn quickly." And he says, "You're going to have to do reselection." "Not a problem," I said. I mean, I'm fit. Yeah, I mean, FUF school, I'm fit. So he says, "Off you go," and you go in. So then I go stand in the row, or go sit in the row with our markers, and we're chatting. And then, now we go into 3-2. Now, what was interesting at that year towards the end, I'm sure, as you know, there was Ops Modular going on. And General Jannie Geldenhuys and the leadership of the SA Defence Force said those guys would come back earlier, because Ops Modular was quite a big battle. And us young corporals, lieutenants, troops would go over and take over from them. So I never got to do the marching out parade at infantry school, which I was happy with. I mean, who wants to go train for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, walking up and down the city and marching? So I got my stripes earlier than everyone else, and was put on first said cheers to by platoon 3. And it was interesting. The corporal and lieutenant from platoon 4 actually came and said cheers to me. And I felt a little bit of, I actually wanted to show them a few Indian signs to say, "Yeah, I've made it, and no thanks to you." But yeah, they came and said cheers and said, "Look after yourself. 32 Battalion is rough." And I knew nothing about 32. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So we went for like a week's pass. Went home, said to my mom, "I'm going to the border." Didn't tell her where, and that was it. Came back to FUF school on a plane to 32 Battalion. And that's essentially how I got to 32 Battalion. Long-winded story that I've told you so far, but I think it was on the 18th of November. No. Yeah, around the 15th, 17th of November, 87. I landed at, I think it was Grootfontein or Windhoek, with this other bunch of guys that were going to 32. And there was, I think, 9 of us. And that's the bunch that would be in 32, mostly national service from end of 87 to December 88. That's how I got to 32.
When we arrived at 32, before we went to the training base, all of us were trooped to the CO's office. where we met for the first time Commandant Jan Hurgard. And we all lined up there, and he was asking us questions. And he asked Lieutenant Duplessis, why do you want to join the unit? And Lieutenant Duplessis said, I want to be with the best unit in the country, in the South African Defence Force. And I was asking all of them, and eventually he came to me and he said, why do you want to join? And I said, I want to come be a leader of men. I want to experience and have an adventure. And he nearly bit my head off. He said, you can be a leader of men at infantry school, you can be a leader of men at any SI unit. Why do you want to come to 3-2 Battalion? So I said, I want to see action. I want to be with the best. So he said to all of us, you'll have to sign on permanent for some time, and the 10 of you standing here, maybe at the end of the year there'll only be 6 of you, because this unit sees all the action 365 days of the year. It's in Angola continuously. And I think all our eyes opened over there quite dramatically to actually see what unit we were in. I really got respect, and more respect, even not knowing anything. I mean, being a day or two in the unit, listening to what Commandant Hurgard said and what the unit has done and what they're still doing, it was really, really an eye-opener for us. After that, we were trooped through to the CSM store, where we got given our kit, and we met Sergeant Major Chris Cockadell over there, and he said, hello, Luitenantjies, hello, Corporals, and he gave us our stuff. And it was actually a nice experience to be able to get your camouflage kit, all your webbing, your machila, your camouflage machila. It just felt, now we're in the unit. Whilst in reality we weren't, but we still had a lot to learn. But got your kit, got on the truck, and we were trooped off to Nova Damasco.
At this point, I have to say to you, I apologize for saying your name is Sabatini when it's Sabatino. I got confused. So what? Now you arrive at the place, you've got no idea what you're getting into.
Yeah, so not knowing what I was getting into, but anyway, this is interesting. We landed, I think it was Windhoek, and we find this vehicle that's come to pick us up. I think we were 2 corporals, and I think there were 6 lieutenants. No, Lani is sitting in the front, lieutenant. We're all in the back, and off we go, and we drive to Rundu, and we arrive in Rundu quite late at night. So we get off, we get told where we're going, and we sit there, and we find there's a swimming pool. So we're sitting around the swimming pool, all of us just relaxing, someone in the pool or whatever, and these 2 oaks, I mean, black and dirty as hell, smelling, come through. They just come out of ops. But there were 3-2 guys, and they were shouting and talking. I'm sure they had a lot to drink, but anyway, so they were shouting and talking, and they saw us youngsters here. And they were asking, who are you? Now we said, like we now just come from FUF school. No, we here to join 3-2 Battalion. And they're asking questions, and one of them said to me, do you know what it's like to die in your own blood? And me, I've never seen that in my life. No. He says, don't worry, 3-2 Battalion will show you. So you had a few shocks, and people were meeting you, and but it was an adventure. So anyway, the next day on a Quairful, all the way to Buffalo. So Buffalo is the base where the unit kept, the fighting unit. Rundu is where the HQ was, the head office. So we got to Buffalo, straight to the training center, which was Nova Damasco, built on the 9th of March. So all of us are there. We get in truck, we get packed out, put your kit away, tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock PT. So that next morning, all of us, PT. Polls, I thought, hell, I'm back at FUF school. poles running in this desert sand. It was crazy. I actually, a few of us hurled afterwards. We caught because it was a hell of a PT session. But anyway, at least the corporals kept up with the lieutenants, so that was good news. So anyway, we started doing basic things, learning a bit of Portuguese, different command structures in Portuguese, learning to adapt because you had to. I mean, the troops were Portuguese, and you had to know how to communicate with them, or at least be able to give them commands in Portuguese in battle. And so we learned a lot of that. Good trainers at the training center Nova de Marcho. And we got given our camouflage kit, and we felt like we were in the unit. I mean, I started shooting weapons that I would never shot if I stayed at a PSI unit. I mean, the Dragunov RPGs, throwing grenades, and in a total different environment to what was at infantry school. I mean, there was just a bank and you threw over it. It wasn't many rules. But anyway, so busy doing our training and getting our normal, should I say, PT sessions, not to swear. And all of a sudden, this order comes through. All new intake from 3 to the leadership has to go to the bush. This was towards the end of November now. So right at the end of modular. So we got trooped off, flown to Mavinga. And when I landed Mavinga, you see these helicopters coming in with these guys in body bags or just getting pulled out. And I remember walking past this guy, drips coming out all over him, and he says to me, "Corporal, I want a cigarette." So I used to smoke, so I'll give him a cigarette. Yo, did I get into shit? Don't give him a cigarette. This oak is badly wounded and what. So I said, "Listen, what happened?" He said, "No, I've been shot up with shrapnel and I'm going back to South Africa." So I wish him luck and everything, but it's an eye-opener. You see these body bags get thrown into trucks or into helicopters. You see these guys running around looking after people that are injured, etc. And yeah, you're a new corporal straight out of Oudtshoorn, and your eyes open big time. But anyway, got on a truck and got taken to where modular was happening, or the last part. And we didn't. I mean, I think driving up there, the best thing that happened is there was a MiG coming over, and we bombshelled and jumped off the trucks, and the trucks went left and right. Anyway, nothing much happened. Learned to dig a loopgraaf very quickly. What's a loopgraaf in English? A trench. We learned to build a trench quickly when that thing happens, or when that happened. So anyway, we spent some time there. Nothing happened. Modular was over. The old companies got shipped back to 3 Battalion, and our leadership group went to another base, or another part of, I think it was in Chichipa, with Commandant Jan Hoogaard. They were patrolling in that area, and they were looking after the MRLs, etc. And we spent Christmas over there. Nothing much happening, just watching these MRL shoot, being there if anything happened. So just after Christmas, they get a call. All the leadership that was there with Commandant Hoogaard has to go back to the base. But here's where my surname gets a bit of a jolt, because the one corporal and other 6 lieutenants are going back, and Sabatino is going nowhere. So they tell me, "Listen, we're going back to base." I said, "But why haven't I been called?" So anyway, I say, something's wrong here. So off I go, see Commandant Hoogaard. I say, "Commandant, why am I not going back to Buffalo?" He says, "What's your surname?" I say, "Sabatino." He says, "But you meant to be a Portuguese. You're one of the black." I said, "No, man, I'm from infantry school." So he says, "No, okay." So I land up in the helicopter, fly back to Mavinga, fly back to Rundu, over the bushes, over the treetops in this helicopter. And I mean, I'll never forget the oil smell and stuff in the nose. But anyway, flying over was a great experience. Land back at Rundu, back to Buffalo, back to the training area, wash up and everything. Now we go back to now we get allocated into the companies. And I get allocated into Delta 2. And Delta 2, it was the unit was commanded, the company was commanded by Jurg Human. And the lieutenants were Titi Del Brio, Moshi Mostert, and I was a corporal leading Delta 2. And my sergeant, or platoon sergeant, was Jeremiah Secunda. So great guys. But for me, the difficulty is here's me as a corporal who's a qualified platoon instructor or platoon sergeant. I'm now meant to be platoon commander, but I have to go and walk and slack my sergeant and say, hello, sergeant, and I must tell him what to do. So I found that a bit difficult, and I struggled a bit with it. But Jeremiah Secunda was a good sergeant, and we worked well together. Anyway, I spent time at Delta, and then towards early January or that time, another lieutenant came and joined Delta by the name of Andre Boer, and he took over Delta 2, and I became the 2IC. But in that time, a lieutenant by the name of Garth Hamilton went on course, and I moved to Echo Company, one of the platoons there, platoon commander, and the corporal was a platoon sergeant, so it made it a little bit easier. But anyway, at that stage, we were called up for a 2-week ops for the Battle of Tumpu, etc. And yeah, let me just, talking about all of this. This is, I'm from the younger side, so I don't have all these recce and GB stories to say. For me, it's an adventure and more about the laughs, etc. But yeah, I guess I can say I did see action, or I know what it's like to have bombs thrown at me. But anyway, so we took part in the Battle of Tumpu 1, and meant to be there for 2 weeks, ended up there 6 weeks. And basically how it occurred is it was Delta, Echo, and Foxtrot Company that were ordered to attack this base. And the commander of this battle force was a Commandant van Staden. And he was in charge, and we were going to go attack this base. So basically a day or so before, we start marching in box formation, single file, to get to the starting off point. Now, if you read the book from Pete Norkier, both the books, he actually delves big into this battle of what the terrain was like that we had to go through to get to the starting point, what the terrain was like to attack the base, etc., etc. But walking there, we were in like knee height mud, water. I mean, it was terrible. I fell down face forward. A guy picks you up at the back, and you carry on walking. But it was battle, Mashila, helmet, your weapons, so it wasn't the big Mashila at that stage. It was, you were getting ready to go into battle. So we go over this feature, and here's another bit of fun. Here we go over this feature, and we're waiting for it goes to dark, and we're going to do an early morning attack, whatever the case is. And I hear on this radio this person calling. No one answers. Why is no one answering? So anyway, I answer. I say, Sab, go. Sab's my call sign. Sab, go. And this staff sergeant is saying, are you north of the feature? Now, I'm new in the army. North of what feature? What the hell is this oak talking about? Anyway, he keeps on asking me, and I'm trying to ask my troop, what does north mean of the feature? What fucking feature? Oh, sorry. What feature? Anyway, he loses his cool with me, and he says, are you fucking north of the water? Now I understand where I am. Yes, we're north of the water. Anyway, everything sorted out with the radio. We're waiting there. Then we get ready for this attack. And we start walking first in single file. Then when I don't know, half a kilometer away, can't remember exactly, we get told to go in a box formation. The 81 mortar lights get shot up, so you can see ahead, and it's thick brush. Now, to control that box formation, Commandant van Staden, the company commanders, us platoon commanders, wherever it took quite a bit of time trying to keep everyone in their line or in the straight of the box, and we get going, and you hear the radios go a bit left, go a bit right. But anyway, we get to a base where we go to an extended line. So now you've got these 3 companies in extended line, and now we're going to attack this base. There's trenches in front of us. Now, we don't know. I don't think intelligence told us or anything. Is there enemy in the base? Whatever the case is. But it's properly dug in enemy trenches that we're going to now attack. So, I mean, I'm thinking, is this like a first world thing when you just walking and the machine guns are shooting and you just falling like flies. Anyway, so you're walking with your platoon a little bit behind them, saying left, right, go a bit forward, whatever the case is, and we're walking in the standard file, and the bombs start falling. So I see these bombs falling on the right-hand side. You don't think, yes, as if this thing lands close to you, you mince meat. Anyway, you see it, and you keep on walking. Luckily, there's no enemy to attack you. Luckily, I say. There was further down the line, there was a little bit of interaction with, I think a truck was shot out by an RPG with one of the sergeants, whatever the case. But anyway, we get into the enemy's area. We had to do that to get a base for the tanks to come through to continue with the Battle of Tumpu. So we did it. We achieved our objective. No injuries. Luckily, the enemy wasn't there, but the bombs were falling. We got there, I think, around 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. We left there at 4 o'clock after shellacking bombing of hell. The bombs were falling. We were told in that period, if you read the books, that it was the worst bombing that South African troops experienced since Delville Wood. I know a little bit of history. Delville Wood was a hell of a thing, but that's what they wrote in the books. And they bombed us, and they bombed us. 3 of my troops were wounded because we were the only platoon, can you believe it? The only platoon that wasn't in enemy trenches that were dug. All the other guys got into the enemy trenches and had the protection. My platoon was the only one. So when the bombing started, I phoned my company commander and I say, can I get my troops into the enemy trenches? No, keep the line. These bombs are falling. One oak wanted to run away. I pushed him down and I say, Abashu, you stay here. Anyway, so we stay in the lines. 3 of these troops get wounded. I go get their weapons, and I'm walking with them, with the medics, and I see my company commander. I'm sure through the blackest beautiful camouflage, I was white. I mean, here's a 19-year-old getting the hell bombed out of him. You know what I mean? I don't know. People say, are you scared? I was scared. I mean, who's not scared when you're having the shit bombed out of you? But you have to do your duty. So anyway, I'm sure I was white as a ghost. And my 3 troops went. I got the weapons, kept them, and we continued getting bombing. Another range of bombing came, and in this line, myself and the corporal were sitting next to each other. And now, I never knew this before, but I was told afterwards, when bombs come, if you hear a long whistle, then the bomb's over you. But if it's a short whistle, but it's nabe, it's close to you. So this little, I wouldn't say it's short, because if it's short, it's hell of a short, it's right on top of you. It was like, and it blew and dust and sand got thrown on me and the corporal, and the troops on the right thought we were dead. Anyway, we get up, dust off the sand, and I say to this corporal, listen, I stay here, you move on. Can't have both of us getting killed. So he moved on down the line, kept everyone in position, and then after this is about 1 o'clock, I think, I asked the company commander again, listen, can I get my guys into trenches? Now, the only other trenches were behind us, so closer towards the enemy side. He said yes. So off they run. Now, I must look after these guys. I don't know where they are, but they're in trenches. So I'm lying in this little, I don't want to call it trench, a little dugout. I see this one of my troops running towards me, and he's running like this, and he dived into the little place. And the first thing I say to him, cigarro, por favor. Have you got a cigarette? I run out of cigarettes. He says, here's one. So, you know what they say in a foxhole? No matter the color, as long as you're a brother together, you got water or cigarette, you help each other. So he gave me a cigarette. I gave him some water, and we waited it out. But of course, these bombs were falling. We got told we got thrown with stolen organs. I don't know what else. MiGs bombed us. Whatever else they had, they bombed us. I don't know why they were not accurate. Why they were not. For me, they were very accurate. 3 of my troops were wounded. But we were very lucky. Now, the tanks start coming through. And this is the last part when we really got, yes, then the bombs came. Luckily, not accurate. Anyway, the tanks come through. And this one company commander, because UNITA was with these tanks, and you need to start shooting at us, because UNITA thinks we the enemy, we Fapre in the trenches. So you need to start shooting. this company commander throws yellow smoke. Now, yellow smoke tells you you're friendly, but yellow smoke tells the enemy where you are. And that was a hell of a thing. And Commandant van Staden was heard over that radio, going mad, swearing and shouting, "Get rid of that smoke, get rid of the smoke." And the bomb started coming. But again, there must have been angels, or, you know, if you believe in God or whatever the case is, there must have been someone looking after us to say, listen, as accurate as it can be, we're only going to have 3 of your troops wounded. End of the day, we walked out. I was dehydrated as hell. I ran out of water. But anyway, we're walking back. What I can say, I don't think there was much semblance of military marching out of that. You just were lucky to get out. I remember the troops having to carry an intelligence captain. I mean, they'd just gone through this day of hell, and now they have to carry someone, you know. I mean, they weren't that happy, but they did it. Another lieutenant from 3-2 got so badly dehydrated, he was wandering around where we're getting bombed. He was picked up by a rifle. Now, if you've read the book by Clive Holt, At Thy Call They Will Not Falter, they speak about picking up this lieutenant and my 3 wounded troops. They got picked up and got taken away. But anyway, we walk out. We get back to the starting point in Yazzi's water tanks. Now, I'd run out of water. Have you ever drunk a drip? I've drunk a drip, a salt water drip. I tell you what, it's the cuckest thing in the world. I tried to put some flavored cold drink with it in the rat packs. Yeah, terrible. Anyway, so I try to drink one of these. I get to that water tank. I must have drank that water tank empty because, yeah, was I thirsty. So did that and got resupped, and we waited, and we were there. You know, 3-2 had its own tanks, its own rifles, etc. And we were waiting. While we're waiting, we hear about the tanks going through and hearing them getting bombed. And I think it was Commandant Lowe. He ended up winning the 8C, going through. We hear them on the radio, etc. I don't really know what happened with the rest of the battle, but we hear that. We hear that we're going to go in again, but we're going to go in with tanks. So the tanks come. We get on top of the tanks and they start driving. We get to a point again where they get off. They drive off. They turn their turrets forward. They come back. They wait. We get back on again. And we're driving to the starting point. And the tank commander, I can't remember his name, he comes up and says, "Do you want a shot of whiskey?" I said, "No, I'm okay." Carry on driving, and knock on his turret. "Hey, Mark, what?" So he opens up. I said, "Hey, shot of whiskey." He says, "No, I'm finished." Hey, anyway. So yeah, no Dutch courage for me there. Anyway, so we walk in, we're driving on. They stop. We get off. And we wait and we wait and we wait. So I'm sitting behind the tank. I've got my little sticker platoon there because we all split out. And then all of a sudden on the radio, we get a call. All 3-2 battalion to move 100 meters back or 200 meters back. So everyone comes and we gather around rifles, everything, waiting the tanks. We see you need to come past us. You need to get on the tanks, and off the tanks go. I can tell you what, we were, again, very, very lucky because UNITA went in for the part 2, I think it was, and they got the hell kicked out of them. Apparently, they were getting blown off the tanks, all that type of stuff. So we were very lucky. I don't know who, why, what decided that we weren't going to go with. We got taken off. And that sort of, in my little sphere, was the end of Tumpu 2 or Tumpu. But we stayed. So this was meant to be a 2-week bush trip. It was now longer past that, but we stayed there. And I stayed with Echo, and Echo continued doing patrols. And that's where the patrol, where my company commander lost his leg. He stood on the landmine. So in brief, we were doing patrols. You know, you do company patrols, and then you stop. And then a section will go out patrol. But we were still in company formation, company box formation, and getting ready to go to where the company commander wanted us to stop, where we'll go do platoon patrols, whoever platoon it was to have a chance. So anyway, we come to this road, and he calls his 3 company commanders with him, which was myself. I think it was a Lieutenant Toffee, Lieutenant Toffee, Lieutenant Buerta, and I think it was a Lieutenant Germano, a black Portuguese lieutenant. And the company commander says, he has this wire across the road that we can see, and he says, I think this is mined. So what we'll do is we'll go 100 or 200 meters to the right in single file, and we'll walk for like a K or two. Then we'll come into box formation again, and then we can continue with what we're doing. So anyway, we do this. Yeah, let's just say Echo was platoon 1, 2, and 3. I was company commander of platoon 3. Platoon commander of I was platoon commander of Echo 3. So the guys are walking, and I hear this. About 100 meters in, I hear this. So I throw off my mochila, my rucksack, and I run down the right hand side of the single file. Now that's not clever, because if someone stepped a mine, you actually stay in, you don't move, you stay in the line and you come back. But anyway, I ran on the right hand side, and I saw the company commander down, Lieutenant Taitaron. And the medics, I must tell you, the 3-2 battalion medics were brilliant. I mean, they were around him in a flash, bandaging his leg, putting a drip on, and he says to me, I think I said already in my call, he said, Sab, get me the fuck out of here. I'm a corporal, 2 lieutenants, so I radio, and I talked to the 1 lieutenant who was close by to me and said, listen, we're going to go back across the road, make a TB, and try to get the commander out. So we do that, and the medics are carrying him in a mochila, not a mochila, like a bivvy, and they're carrying him out. And we put him under a tree. He asked me for a cigarette. The medic says no. He says, give me a fucking cigarette. So I give him a cigarette. And he's waiting. Now we're trying to get contact. Now Toffee has got, I think it was the B-22. He's trying to get contact with the base, Commandant van Staden, to eventually get through. But it took us a long time. To get through. We eventually say that what's happened, and now they get a vehicle to come get him out. But we didn't have proper comps or something. We couldn't give, or I couldn't get exact directions. So I said, what I'll do is I'll take a few of my guys and we'll run around and see if we can find the truck. I never found the truck, but eventually Toffee was able to get proper directions and communication, and they came and picked up the company commander. But the guy that came to take over was Staff Sergeant Eugene Rieder, and he showed us the map. And it seemed on the map that me and these 5 guys had ran through a minefield. Now, the directions I gave him said I'd run through a minefield. I could have been right, I could have been wrong, but anyway, that's what I thought. And at least Ty was gone. He got fixed up, and he lost his leg, unfortunately. But and I met him back at 3-2. But what was interesting about that, we were playing cricket a month or so ago with Ty, and I was a good cricketer, good sportsman, bowling and whatever. And we were youngsters then. Now Ty was a bit older than us, and he said to us, and I hope none of you stand on a landmine, because you youngsters, you sportsmen. And he goes and stands on a landmine. And there was another lieutenant said, I got my 1 mil money in my pocket. He got shot in his shoulder. So I think they said to you, don't joke, don't tempt fate, because you don't know what could happen. But anyway, that's what happened. We carried on patrolling, did our thing. No further incidents, and we get trooped back to 3-2 Battalion. And back at 3-2 Battalion, Garth Hamilton comes back to Echo, and I go back to Delta 2 with Andre, and we carry on normal. And that's when we spent about 6 weeks at the base, and then you get to understand the 3-2 guys. You understand how things happen, the parties, and those are the times that I remember a lot, because it was hell of a parties. It was rough and onbeskof. You drank tot die bissies beer, and then you said, I'm never going to do it tomorrow, and the next day it happened again, and it just continued and we had lots of fun. I think the camaraderie was good. it was nice to go to the NCO officers' mess, and you play darts and you drink and you come back to the lines. And we had a lot of parties. And I'll just mention two. Our first one is when we got there, it was the initiation. I tell you, that was a night. Now, at infantry school, I hardly drank. I mean, you fit. If I had one or two beers, yeah, then that's cool. But in 3-2, when I got there, the first thing they gave me was a beer. And you said, do you drink? And I was thinking, do I say no? I don't. No, okay, no, I drink. So anyway, got given the beers and we drink. But this one night was initiation. So you go to the pub first, NCO, and you have some drinks, and then you come down to the lines. Now, this is where it gets rough. Because you're the newbie and they're going to donor you. But not donor you with fish, donor you with alcohol. And you drink and you drink. So anyway, I was chatting to Staff Louis Lombard on the back of a buffel and just chatting and saying, look, I'm trying to stay out of this alcohol. Anyway, no luck for me. We go down and we get into this. Now, a young lieutenant and me, I think it was Duppies and me, and this company commander we had a fetish of headbutts. He liked to headbutt you, or he liked other people getting headbutted. So anyway, we were standing there and we got our beers in our hand or whatever choice of drink, and you'd say, welcome to 3-2, drink. Welcome to 3-2, drink. Yes, and carried on and carried on. Now, you can take as much, and I mean, as I said, I'm not a brave old man anyway. Now I'm old. I've got tears in my eyes. I'm thinking, yes, is this head is sore now? I'm saying, yeah, I'm here to fight for my country, and I'm getting my head butted. And but anyway, carried on. And I mean, the Oaks drank. I saw one Oak throwing hand grenades into the river. Another guy was aiming, not hand grenades. I can't remember what it was, but like, I don't know what it was. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, aiming. But it was a hell of a party. And my head the next day was hell of a sore. But anyway, that was the introduction. What was interesting when Lieutenant Andre joined the unit, we said to him, listen, do you know you get introduced in 3-2? You better have a hard head. He said, nah, that won't happen to me. Oh, his head got hit that night. Headbutt. Boop, boop, boop. Anyway, it was just fun. And I've actually spoken to the company commander. And I said, listen, you gave me a hard head. And he said, yeah, I'm sorry. I said, you don't have to be sorry. That was just, you're welcome. And it was the unit. I don't want to say it made me a man. It matured me. I mean, when you're 19, 20, I think you're a little bit of a man already, but it matures you, makes you think differently, and it shows you about brotherhood and whatever. But another party, this was, that one was, but this was coming out of the bush. We have a massive party, and one of the corporals was not happy at all, and he let rip. He actually started shooting his weapon in the air, and he was mad at this company commander that was doing headbutts. And it got actually quite nasty. But afterwards, it calmed down. No, we were having a party. So I go back, and he gets me, this company commander, and he starts headbutting. You corporals, you nationals. I said, no, man, my head's sore now. Anyway, Garth Lieutenant comes up. Garth Hamilton comes up to me and says, no, I'll take over from you. And he starts headbutting the company commander. And then a very famous legend in 3-2, I'm sure you've heard the name, Samuel Kruger. If you've ever seen a man down a bottle of all gold tomato sauce, then there must be another Koos Crocodile in the world, because this Oak, he said, stop the bus, and he took this bottle of all gold tomato sauce and he downed it. Yeah, it stopped everyone. I mean, anyway, so we carried on drinking. I had a Musa Bablas. And then the next morning I hear my name, Sabatino. And I say, this company commander wants to headbutt me again. I keep quiet. Sabatino. So I get up, I go, they're around this fire here. He says, come, you're joining us for a poiki. I mean, that was 3-2. I don't know how to explain it. It was fun, it was hard, it was rough. But I think in the bush, that's when the guys were professional. I was a national serviceman. I'm not a recce. I'm not a Roffenon Beskoff. I mean, those guys were in the unit years and years, some of them. Those were the heroes. And the black troops, they're the heroes. But in the bush, professional as hell. But anyway, time for our next trip, and now I'm with Delta. And Delta's got a new company commander. The other company commander, the headbutt company commander, has left. And one of the lieutenants that was a company commander, a platoon commander in Delta, becomes the company commander. And for some unknown reason, he seemed to dislike me. Maybe it was right. I don't know. But anyway, we go on a bush trip, and he says, now, Oliver, it's your turn to go on patrol. And I want you to go find this bridge. There's this Musa highway, like road that you have to cross and everything. And yeah, I guess when map reading was done at FUP school, I was sleeping or I was getting chased around. I wasn't a great map reader. So anyway, I take my platoon, or my section, and off we go looking for this place. And I get lost in my murin. Lost. And I say to him, I can't find this place. I think I'm at this road. I can't find my place. Hey, he flukes me sticking. And I'm walking. I say, I'll try. I can't find this place. The troops don't even know where it is. Anyway, so on our way back, I find the company again. And I go up to him and I say, hey, sorry, I couldn't find this place. He was highly the Murin. So the next day, I have to take the whole company on a compass bearing. I did well. I mean, you go left, right, on left past the first tree, right past the second tree, keep it on a compass bearing. And I'm going. But he was the Murin with me. So we then do another patrol, and Lieutenant Andre and me lead the patrol with Sergeant Jeremiah, and we go out and we're patrolling and everything. And then me and Sergeant Jeremiah keep the two sections of the platoon, and Andre goes with one section of the platoon and goes further on a recce. All of a sudden, we hear him on the radio speaking to the company commander that he's hearing tanks. And I think at that stage, T2 Duabria also heard tanks. And the company commander says to Andre, get out of there. So Andre calls me and Jeremiah and says, get ready, get the troops ready. We hot wheeling it out of there. So he comes running. Tanks are behind us, and we got our stuff, Mashilas, and we go back. And the company commander gives Andre a bearing on the map. Spot on. He gets us back there. The reading from the company commander was great. We get back there, and we say what happened, or Andre says what happens, and everything's cool. But at that stage, also, it was coming to the end of, I'm sure you heard of the Joe, is it not Joe Crocker, the American, I can't remember his name, the American ambassador, and our people were talking about the end of the war, etc., and starting with withdrawing. And so we were told we had to withdraw. We had to withdraw when a certain amount of time passed, or get out of that area. So we're marching, and we're in two single files. And I don't know what happens, but one of the guys in my platoon come out of line, and this company commander cucks all over me again. I say, I apologize, say sorry, and I get the guy back into line, and we carry on walking. But it's getting dark, so we start walking in a single file, and this guy is in front of me, and he, to me, looks like he's getting behind. So I'm touching me on the back and saying, hey, rapidu, anda, walk. And he complains. So he goes to the company commander and complains. And that day, the next day, this company commander calls me and says, listen, I don't want you in my company. That's it, you done. And I say to him, but please, man, this is what happened. Come on, give me a chance. No, doesn't want me. So yeah, I don't know how many people are as honest as that telling you the stories that they're doing. But anyway, so that was it. So I end up back at Ruakana, and I get told to go to a Major Duplessis. His nickname was Fat Dup. You might have heard of his name. So he goes to me and says, Sabatino, you got two choices. Either you stay or you go to whatever unit you choose to in South Africa. I said, I don't want to go nowhere. I want to prove to this company commander that I'm okay. I want a chance. And I must tell you, that man earned my respect 1,000 times older. The poor oak's dead now, died in Afghanistan. But he earned my respect. He said, okay, you'll stay at Rukana, you'll do this and that. You'll take people in and out. You'll take the on Biffle, you'll take people into the bush to see what's going on, come back. And then I was charged to take most of the unit back to 3-2 as one of the transport convoy commanders, one of those things. And I ended up back at the training base. So I wasn't in the companies anymore. I took my stuff from Delta and I went to Nova Scotia. And that's where I stayed for the next 2 or 3 months, 4 months, training people at Nova Scotia. And the new Rattle guys, tank guys, whatever the case is, they come there for orientation, weapon training. I was doing PT, all that stuff. So I was in Nova Scotia as an instructor. And I must say I enjoyed the time because in essence, I am an instructor. So I enjoyed that. And so carried on with the training, and I'll never forget Sergeant Major Koos Crocodile was at the training base with this German ex-paratrooper. I forget his name, but he was great mates with Sergeant Major Koos. And I used to sit on that little, like a pavement deck at Nova Scotia with a pub and listen to their stories. Now, Koos Crocodile could tell a story, but on it. I mean, he was famous for his stories. But this German paratrooper, one or two of the stories that he told, I mean, I know war is about killing, but there's a lot of fun that happens. And, no matter the generation, youngsters are full of shit, naughty, and get up to shit. And he was exactly the same. And, I mean, I'll never forget on parade, he stood there with his South African medals and he stood there with his German medals, his Iron Cross, his German jump wings, whatever, a proud soldier. And, I had no problem with that. But anyway, at 3-2 Battalion, a new RSM comes on board, a guy by the name of Tully Buerta. He was there ready from the beginning of 87. But anyway, so they hear good things out of the training base. So the troops are getting trained properly and whatever. And Sergeant Major Koos Crocodile says, it's me, which I was, it's always nice to get some positive feedback. But so that's how I ended in 3-2. I then went and did selection for permanent force, and I got selected as permanent force. But I decided not to stay, and I left 3-2 Battalion on, I think, the 2nd of January 1989. I stayed on longer because I was permanent force. So I came back on pass for my brother's wedding, came back, and then still in national service said, no, I know I've qualified, but I think it's best that I don't stay on. And, even today, as a 55-year-old guy, I think, what would have happened if I stayed in the Army? I love the Army. I mean, I'm proud of my Army days. I'm proud of the unit I was in. I don't have nothing negative to say. And I'm not here to, people talk about apartheid, talk about politics. I was a youngster, adventure, soldier. I wanted to do it. And that's sort of my story. I mean, when I was at school, and I ripped and car, particularly from the first 2 or 3 years, I don't want to call it bullied, but mentally bullied because of acne in my skin and everything. And I was a quiet oak. I mean, I could fight. Make no mistake, I could fight. But do I fight every day? Getting to 3-2 changed me completely around. He said, hey, Oliver, you don't stand back for nothing. You know what you want and you go out and get it. And I think that's helped me a lot in my career about handling pressure, about handling different situations. 3-2 taught me a lot. I mean, as I said, guys can tell you that have been in the unit longer than me, much longer, 5 years, 7 years. They've got stories to tell. The guys from Savati, massive actions. I don't have that. But I have a year and 2 months of being in the unit, enjoying every minute, learning, having a little bit of exposure to military action. But I think learning to come out of my shell, and I'll go to my grave as a proud 3-2 member. I don't know what more to say. As I said, this is not about guns and bullets and blood. I didn't experience that. But I'm a proud 3-2 member. I'm proud of my association with the Army, and I carry my medals with pride. The 4 little medals I've got: the Pro Poitiers, the South African Medal, the General Service, and the Unitas Medal. I carry them with pride. I'm a member of the 3-2 Battalion Association. And you saw me reading up the roll caller names this year at Sabatino. And that was a hell of a proud moment for me because, as being a youngster and doing it in the period that I was sort of, from 85 to 92, that's sort of my generation. And the amount of guys that lost their lives, I mean, it takes, as you said in the beginning of the introduction, these guys gave their all. And I was very proud to read it out. And I'm at every Savatini occasion on that Sunday to do the memorial service, and proud to be, I'm just proud to be part of 3-2, and hopefully I can add value. And hopefully this has been interesting. I mean, I know you've done a lot of videos, and I think you've heard of a lot of oaks that have been into hell of a lot of war scenarios. This is just me, a normal little oak with a bit of a story to tell. So I hope that was cool. I'll hand over to you.
Oliver, I have to thank you because at Legacy we're trying to get the entire picture. Because for us who were not in 3-2, we know nothing. Let's be honest. We might have read a few books, but a book is not as good. And I say this as an author myself. A book is not as good as a testimony. It's not the same thing. It's one thing when you can sit and listen to those guys and you see the passion, you see them talking about it, even after all these years. So I'm really happy that you came along because that period of time you're talking about where the war was winding down was also the time of the biggest battles. And that is when 3-2 Battalion has changed, in my opinion. And it became more like a mechanized brigade almost. I've heard some generals, I think it was General Jock Harris, who said it was not a battalion anymore. It was way bigger, even if it was called a battalion. So no, your story to me is fantastic. But I want to ask you a few things, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You say to me that you worked with the tanks, I suppose South African armor, the Centurion, or what do you call it, Olifant tank?
Olifant tank.
Have you ever seen a tank before?
No. Let me. Sure. Maybe at infantry school, on video showing what happened, but not live in action. Not right. No.
And your men, the SPs, were they ever trained or retrained to work with armor?
Yeah, they would have been trained. They've done battles before, particularly in modular, where I think they went into action behind the tanks, and then you come out. I remember 3-2 talking about how well they respected Forsyth for what they did over there. So my troops, I mean, they've been in battle since 1975. So when the unit was formed, I was a youngster. So they've been in all of those situations, absolutely.
Did you feel at some stage that the black officers, they were coming through now as platoon commanders and the very, very experienced soldiers, sergeants, staff sergeants, were they in a way like a fatherly type of looking at you as a youngster out of a school of infantry?
So particularly Sergeant Jeremiah, I got on well with him. He did help me. I mean, he has a guy that doesn't know Portuguese. He helps, and also you must understand he's been in this unit since 75. Here comes a youngster, Snotnius, and he has to listen to me. So his humbleness and his maturity to be able to do that. I mean, I found it very difficult. I'm a very hierarchical type of person. If I'm a corporal and you're a sergeant, well, you're ahead of me. If I'm a manager and you're a director, I respect that. So I found that difficult. Now, what I heard that before in 3-2, corporals were made temporary sergeants to overcome that. I don't know why that didn't happen. So, but yes, I spoke to him. I met him one day at Savatini, one of the reunions, and we had a nice chat. One of my sons was with him, and he said, I worked with your dad. A very humble guy. And I learned. And then Titi Diobrio, I mean, he's a legend in 3-2. He was in Delta, very, very, very humble, very willing to pass on information. So I had, in 3-2, there was no color distinction. You just didn't like the color yellow. if that makes sense. You were apartheid wasn't known in the trenches. When those bombs are falling, my man, black or white means nothing. And if you read the books, the first time the unit started to talk about apartheid is when they moved to Pomfret and people try to go by in the town. What was it, Lichtenberg? Then you see in Piet Nokke's book the hassles that the unit had. But at Buffalo, me as a youngster, I can't say I experienced it. Those troops were experienced, and it happened to me. The company commander said, "You're not fitting in. Off you go. You don't chase the black away or the SB, me." And I was lucky that Pet Duke understood me, listened to me, and gave me a chance. And I appreciate him for that. No, I respect those troops. I mean, they are the heroes. They're the ones that stayed in the Union from 75. They were the ones that were betrayed by the government, and whatever happened over there, I don't know the real politics, but yeah, they were done a dirty. So I respect them.
Can you tell us about Staff Louis Lombard? Because he gave you your beret, and that is a special looking beret. It fits your head very well.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting story. The first 9 months at 3-2, you wear that green beret, and you got your infantry copy, and you don't have nothing of 3-2 battalion gear on you or insignia. So after 9 months, after Tumpu, whatever, I said, what do I do? I was speaking to Garth Hamilton. What do I do to get the camouflage beret, etc.? I've been to selection phase, all that type of stuff. You write a letter to Colonel Delport. So he helps me in, the proper letter writing, how you have to space it, and what's on the left, what's on the right, and I write, and I tell the ops that I've been in, and I get this letter back from Colonel Delport that says, you qualified to get your beret, go for it. Now, where do I find a beret and a belt? I found the belt, but I couldn't find the beret. So I was walking and I saw Staff Louis Lombard. I said, "Hey, Staff, I'm so proud. I got my 3-2 beret, but I can't get it." He just took I think his beret was in his belt, on his head. I can't remember, and he gave it to me. And I said, "Are you sure?" He says, "Yeah, no, I got another one." And I mean, I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you'll see on the video, but here's it today. The same beret that Louis Lombard gave to me. It's faded. He had it for the same bulky, the same buffle cop, everything from Louis Lombard, and it's a prized possession. And I was actually on one of the groups. I was reminding him of him giving me beret. He forgot about it. I mean, it was insignificant to him, but to me, it was a massive moment. That beret, that beret will be buried with me one day.
Would you say that the credo of 3-2 Battalion still plays a role in your life after you people left the unit?
So yeah, we can do. Yeah, so those three values: honesty, loyalty, and justice. Isn't it the basis of life? And it bears fruit in my values every day. I use it in work. I tell my team honesty. You have to be loyal. I mean, lots of people tell you want loyalty, get a dog. But loyalty over the long time has to pay off somewhere along the line. And justice, be fair, firm and fair. Justice delayed is justice denied. So yeah, I live by those. Obviously, there's other values as well, integrity and other things that you can pull into it. But those three values form a huge part of my life.
I've got a last question for you.
Okay.
As I said, when I was standing there taking the videos of you guys, reading the names, I was quite touched. And there were 3 of you, and you were just going on.
Yeah.
But it occurred to me that those names, even though they mean nothing to anybody else, might actually mean something to you people. You might remember this man and that man and that man. How did you decide who's reading which one of those 3? Were you organized into different eras, or how did it work?
So when I was approached to ask if I wanted to read the names by the chairman of the 3-2 Battalion, I said, because I'm the youngster. I think Noel Fulyoun read the one lot. I can't remember who read the second lot, but the third guy, me, I was the youngster. So to me, to read the names from Savati, I'd rather leave it for an older guy that had, for me, from 85 to 80, 91, my generation. I think that made sense to me. And you're absolutely correct. You might not know each name on that roll call, but that person was a 3-2 member. He gave his all. He gave his all for his brother, for his unit, for his country, whichever way you want to say it, for his family. And they were refused the right to enjoy a long life, to have kids. Some of these guys died at 18, 19. Some of them guys died at 32, 33 in action, leaving family behind. So each name has a meaning, even though it's not a physical meaning, or you might not know that name. But he's a 3-2 brother. And isn't that enough to say that you've got emotion for that name you're reading out and have given it the respect? The worst thing you can do is to forget. And I think one of those old moth sayings, or a soldier sayings, lest we forget, we need to remember history, no matter good or bad, is history. Soldiers don't start wars. Old men, politicians start wars. Youngsters, both sides, fight, die, and bleed. And you have to remember them no matter what.
I listen to you people. I listen to hundreds of you. I mean, really, you're the third one today. And every time I sit here, I think to myself, wow, I'm so proud of what South Africa produced, or what the
100%.
army produced. I mean, how the hell do you take a young guy out of school, make him a corporal or a lieutenant? There's no real difference. I mean, the work we do.
Yeah,
And
100%.
put him in command of 50 battle-hardened guys behind enemy lines, taking on an enemy which is also experienced. Eh? Those Swapo guys by that time were also fighting since when? More of a long time.
Yeah.
And you guys just went and did it. I don't know I don't get it.
Yeah.
If I have to tell you how many overseas officers call us here or write to us, from, you name it, Sandhurst, that's what the US one, West Point, Annapolis too, where my wife was, my late wife, Annapolis or something.
Annapolis, the Navy.
Yeah. Then they say to me, surely this is play acting. So no, not fucking play acting. Come here, I'll show you. This is for truth,
Yeah.
man. You can see that it's not play acting. I can't believe what you guys achieved.
Of course, I think, maybe I should have said it is the training. And I was listening to a Jan Geldenhuys video, and he said, yes, you had the professional army, but the professional army was small in South Africa. It was the national servicemen, no matter what level, that played a part. They were the ones that were getting conscripted year on and year and getting told, go for 2 years. But the professional army, that training that they gave, I tell you, best in the world. I think he said at one stage we were the best army in the world, or best army in Africa with our size. And it was about the training, that repetitiveness, that breaking you down. No matter, you could have been a degreed doctor, and you might have had a standard 6 next to you. You both learn how to strip a weapon the same way, and there's no difference. And you get taught to listen, and you get taught to trust what you've been taught. And you do it. And the South African fighting man, don't listen to me. Listen to Jan Geldenhuys. Listen to both of them. The previous head of the army, who just died a year or two ago. I forgot his name now. But anyway, General Fulyoun. Go see what they said about the South African infantrymen, the normal oak. We were respected, but we were properly trained. And with units like 3-2 Battalion, who had professional soldiers, Jan Breitenbach starting it off with that group, and trained those men into a fighting unit, the best in the world. If you're properly trained, what was that saying? Rather sweat blood now than bleed blood in battle. Rather sweat the training now. And I think that's what the South African Army did.
It reminds me of that 7 P's. What is it again? The 7 P's.
No, you got me. But anyway.
Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
There we are. Yeah, you should have been a marketing man. Yeah, you would have got that well. Yeah, no, but if I can just say thank you to you for allowing me to, uh, have a chat to you. You know, as I said, I'm a nobody, a little corporal, but really enjoyed being able to talk to you, and I'll just give you a bit of insight from maybe the lower level. I think you got all the big boys already. Here's a lower level story.
No, you're most welcome, mate. You're most welcome. And I want to say to all of you listening here, you're all welcome here. Don't think you were just a corporal. Or I don't want to hear the word just. There's no such thing. You were a corporal, actually a platoon commander at one stage. It
Yeah,
just shows you once again, I mean, how good the training was. People can't stop talking about that. It was just fantastic. So we
yeah.
thank you. And as I always say to all of you, until we meet again, God bless.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good evening. Look after yourself.